Nearly every culture on Earth, separated by oceans, mountains, and thousands of years, independently invented the exact same creature, a massive reptile scaled, often winged, often breathing fire or poison, guarding treasure, or terrorizing villages, or coiled around the base of the world itself. China had one, Scandinavia had one, Mesoamerica had one, ancient Mesopotamia, some of the very first written stories on Earth, had one too. You'd expect that kind of coincidence to mean something. So why doesn't the creature exist? And why did humans, everywhere, independently dream up almost the same monster? Let's start with the biology, because it's the simplest reason, and also the most unforgiving. A dragon, as usually imagined, is a massive four-legged reptile that also flies using a separate pair of wings. That's 6 limbs. And here's the problem. In the entire history of life on Earth, across billions of years of evolution, no vertebrate has ever evolved 6 limbs, not one. Every flying vertebrate we know of, birds, bats, and the extinct pterosaurs, solved the flight problem the same way. They didn't add a new pair of limbs. They repurposed an existing pair. A bird's wing is a modified arm. A bat's wing is a modified hand, with skin stretched between elongated fingers. A pterosaur's wing was a modified arm and one dramatically extended finger. Evolution, it turns out, is not a creative designer starting from scratch. It's a tinkerer, working only with the parts already available. Adding an entirely new set of limbs isn't just difficult. Based on everything we know about vertebrate development, it may be functionally impossible. Since the genetic body plan for 4-limbed animals is deeply conserved across almost all land vertebrates, so a fire-breathing dragon isn't just something evolution didn't get around to. It's something evolution's own toolkit likely couldn't produce. But that only answers half the question, because the biology doesn't explain why so many unrelated cultures dreamed up something so specific. This is where paleontologist Adrian Mayer's research becomes genuinely fascinating. Bayer spent years studying something called the study of how ancient people interpreted fossils they found in the ground, long before anyone understood what a dinosaur even was, and what she found is remarkable. Many ancient dragon legends cluster suspiciously close to real fossil beds. In ancient Scythia, in what is now parts of Central Asia, enormous fossilized bones of a horned dinosaur about the size of a large dog were scattered across the desert. Ancient travelers who found these skeletons, complete with a beaked skull and a bony frill, had no framework for dinosaur. What they had was a skeleton that looked distinctly reptilian, oddly proportioned, and clearly enormous. Some historians believe these very bones may have helped shape early griffin and dragon legends passed along the Silk Road on China. Fossilized bones, sometimes dinosaur bones, sometimes bones of extinct rhinos or other giant Ice Age mammals, were unearthed for centuries and were explicitly called dragon bones. They were even ground up and sold as traditional medicine, under that exact name, for well over 1,000 years, long before paleontology existed as a science. So ancient people across completely disconnected civilizations were finding the same kind of evidence, enormous, unfamiliar, unmistakably reptilian-looking skeletons, emerging from the earth with no explanation attached. Faced with a giant bone structure they couldn't identify, the human mind did what it has always done with the unexplained. It built a story around it, but fossils only explain part of the pattern too, because dragon myths didn't only emerge near fossil beds, they emerged almost everywhere. Fossils are not. This is where a completely different theory comes in, one rooted not in geology, but in psychology. Researcher David E. Jones proposed that dragons may represent something deeper, a kind of composite predator, built from the combined ancient fears of separate primate ancestors. Long before humans existed, our distant primate ancestors faced 3 major predator categories: big cats, which stalk silently and pounce; birds of prey, which strike from above with claws; and snakes, which are venomous, silent, and nearly impossible to spot in foliage. Jones's theory suggests that across deep evolutionary time, primates developed instinctive fear responses to each of these 3 threats independently, and a dragon, when you break it down, is essentially all 3 fears fused into a single creature: the scaled body and venom of a snake, the claws and occasionally the wings of a bird of prey, the raw size, ferocity, and hunting posture of a big cat. In other words, a dragon may not be a random invention at all. It may be your oldest fears, layered on top of each other, wearing one body that would explain why the image feels instantly universally terrifying. Even to people who have never encountered a real predator of any of those 3 kinds, the fear isn't learned from experience. It's inherited, wired in from an evolutionary past far older than any single culture's mythology. So here's where that leaves you. Dragons don't exist because evolution's own toolkit genuinely can't build one. 6 limbs simply isn't on the table for any vertebrate that has ever lived. But the idea of a dragon exists almost everywhere, because it was built from real evidence and real instinct. Real fossilized giants pulled from the ground, misread by people with no framework for deep time, and real ancient fear circuits, inherited from ancestors who once had very good reasons to be afraid of claws, fangs, and silent things in the grass. You were never afraid of a monster that never existed. You were afraid of every predator that ever did. All remembered at once, wearing a single pair of wings,